Hello everyone, this is Scarzig and welcome back to another viewer replay review. Today's replay comes to us from Wraith908, who's playing Starhorn in this matchup versus Vanar. In my general experience playing Vanar, Magmar was always a very tough opponent to deal with. I think in the current meta it's more even since Kara has a really strong control game right now, and aggro Faie is generally also very threatening. I think that if an aggressive Magmar deck and an aggressive Vanar deck were to go up against each other, it probably would just come down to whoever gets their key draws first. But I think Magmar, because of their AoE, is generally able to suppress Vanar a bit more. We can see Starhorn coming in here, which is pretty interesting because his Bloodborne spell makes both players draw a card, and in a matchup versus aggro, you generally don't want them to draw cards because that's just giving them more fuel to dump on your face. So we'll see how that plays into this matchup. Fortunately, we see Wraith with 2 Earth Spheres in his opening hand. You could definitely get away with dropping 1, of course, since he already has the Young Silithar, a Natural Selection, and a Blistering Scorn for very nice, well-rounded opening turns. And you could probably replace both Earth Spheres if you weren't too concerned with the aggressive nature of the opponent's deck, but if you wanted to keep 1 Earth Sphere just in case things went south, I wouldn't blame you. So he actually does decide to replace both Earth Spheres. So that makes me wonder if he's running 2 or maybe 3, because if you're running at least 2, it makes it a bit less consistent, but if you're running 3, then you'll most likely have 1 by the time you need it. 3 Earth Spheres is basically for pure control, which this deck most likely is not because he's playing Starhorn. So we'll see how this goes. It's probably some sort of mid-range hybrid thingy, so I'm actually really excited to see what this list has to offer. So right off the bat, the Abyssinian General does a double 2-drop opening. Unfortunately for him, the only 2 drops he's able to muster are 1 health minions. So he's just going to slay the Jaxi to spawn the mini-Jax. Blistering Scorn comes down right on the mana tile to completely AoE that nonsense. The Snow Chaser was not infiltrated when it died, so it's not going to go back to the Vanar player's hand. In my opinion, he probably should not have played the Snow Chaser there unless it was infiltrated, especially with Blistering Scorn abounding the way it is. Because if you play, let me pause actually, if you play, he plays Snow Chaser right here, and even if it had survived, it would need to move here or here in order to start making its way over to the opponent's side of the field. So it would have been vulnerable for 2 turns where it wouldn't be able to get infiltrated. So I think, in my opinion, that was a big misplay. If in his hand we can see he had the Glacial Elemental, he could have just as easily played that back here and then moved forward and not taken the mana tile. Because he's playing Bone Chill Barrier Glacial Elemental combos, it's a Vespyr deck, which is pretty interesting to see on the ladder as well. So he's probably not too worried about his opponent getting a lot of stuff on the field because you actually have some AoE added into your Vanar deck, which your opponent is not going to be expecting. So I think that playing the Glacial Elemental first would have been better as a Vanar general. It's just that you want to watch out for Natural Selection. It would have been a prime candidate to get hit with Natural Selection. So if you're truly worried about that option as well, he probably could have stepped too forward and just played the Jaxi. It would have been a really weak opening, but it would not have gotten punished as hard by the Blistering Scorn. Definitely a waste of a Snow Chaser, especially for a Vespyr deck. You need that Vespyr minion that's going to keep coming back to your hand so you can keep proccing your Glacial Elemental, proccing your Voice of the Wind sometimes. These decks will run. And coming down here, we've got the Young Silithar and the Kuhada, which is pretty interesting. Actually decides to play this after the Young Silithar because he has the mana for it, and so the Young Silithar doesn't take any damage, so that's really useful. Unfortunately, he does not play around Warbird, so the Kuhada just dies for free. He actually is not even going to need to cast it, looks like, because he has another Bone Chill Barrier coming down. Let's see where these pings hit. 1 for the Kuhada, 2 for this Young Silithar. Wow, that's lucky right there. Again, he wouldn't even need to cast. He could have just cast Warbird to take out the Kuhata if it didn't hit right. And he has enough mana left over because of that lucky Bone Chill ping that he can get the Alswin Lore Master down to get the Bone Chill barrier back. So, Wraith uses his Bloodborne spell to kind of draw some answers here. Fortunately, the young Silithar is able to go into the Alswin Lore Master, but he's not able to follow up with anything else after that. Playing the Blistering Scorn, knowing that he has the Bone Chill barrier in his hand ready to go, is definitely, it's definitely better to save that, because the 1 damage ping isn't going to help you against these Bone Chill barriers. And the Vanguard General actually plays that 3rd Bone Chill barrier anyway in order to completely surround Wraith, which I do not agree with, because you can see here the Bone Chill barriers aren't really going to help you, because normally when you have your opponent fully surrounded with your minions, right? So he's going to play the Cryogenesis. I have the replay paused, but I think a few actions queue up and then play themselves out. But if you have your opponent completely surrounded by your own minions, then of course that's going to be huge, because you can cut off what your opponent's able to summon and restrict their movement and things like that. But Bone Chill barriers are just going to die to 1 general attack, so he was just able to open up the part of the the field that he wanted to summon that Mechanictor and get that AoE off. He was able to take out the Glacial Elemental, and he actually attacked the Bone Chill barrier so that the Mechanictor Warbeast didn't take any retaliation damage, so it still remained a 4/4 even though it was stunned. So it did force the Abyssinian General to use that Cryogenesis on it. We'll see how it goes from here. We've got the Razorback coming down, which honestly this is going to be some pretty good burst, but you can see we've got the Earth Sphere ready to go, so that's not really going to be an issue. This would be a great finisher if he already had him down to 4, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. If he already had him whittled down, that would have been an excellent, huge burst finisher. But sort of going off like that, I can understand taking the damage when you got it. But it doesn't leave him with very much on the board. And so Wraith is able to just completely flip this board around. All the Bone Chill barriers die from trading the Magmar General. He takes out the Spelljammer. He's able to Earth Sphere to get 8 health back. And then the Grincher comes down to draw him an artifact, which he can replace or equip for damage. Unfortunately, we see he does not play around Warbird again. Wraith made this mistake earlier in the match, and I think because he used the Bone Chill barrier to take out that Kuhata instead of using the Warbird to take it out, I think that might be one of the reasons that mistake didn't quite stick in his hand. Oh man. And so we've got the Soul Grimoire drawn from Grincher that perfectly synergizes with the Blistering Scorn to take out the Razorback and the Jax True Sight and all the mini Jaxes for a huge burst finisher. That's absolutely nuts. We can also see here in his ending hand, he had double Metamorphosis. So this did seem to be some sort of mid-range Starhorn, which is very, very cool to see. But the Grincher drew him the perfect artifact that would synergize with that situation so that he could one-shot the Vanguard General. That is absolutely insane. I think that, I believe it was Zix made an infographic about the overall spread of quality of the artifacts that Grincher can draw for you. Because it reduces the artifact by 2 costs, it makes a lot of big plays possible. And that was just absolutely insane. Thank you so much, Wraith, for sharing that replay. What a great way to live through the Vanguard burst there with the Earth Spheres, and just an excellent and unexpected finisher there. Really sucks to be running Jax True Sight in this current meta right now with Blistering Scorn. So definitely just some mistakes there not playing around Warbird, but I think his opponent made a bigger mistake earlier when he had that really weak opening with those 1 health minions. Blistering Scorn MVP, Grincher MVP, great replay, and thank you for stopping by to check it out right along with me, and I'll see you next time. You have a good one.